Alright, welcome back. I hope you're having a good day. This is a variety of a Ficus benjamina of some sort. Back when I was taking a lot of cuttings, not really keeping track of a lot of what I was doing. I think it might be a Ficus Rianne, but there are times that I think a lot of those varieties of smaller leaf Benjamin varieties are kind of hard to tell the difference apart, but it doesn't really matter all that much. But anyway, about 2.5 months ago, I did a wedge cut on it, and I noticed that it had just like a telephone pole trunk. This was originally a root over rock. The rock just, it kind of had some huge potato kind of roots over the rock. I didn't like it, so I took it off. And one of the advantages to having it on the rock is that it was developing a decent nabari under there and everything. And, you know, it's just a nice shaped kind of broom style tree or whatever. But with the straightness of the trunk, I took a wedge out of it and bent it over. And, you know, it's been working out really well. You can see here it's even got a couple of ale roots coming out of the spot there and everything. There is a little gap there. And that, so 2.5 months ago I did the wedge cut. And then I was having some issues where I had, you know, this is a, you know, rounded pot here. And I had the wire over on this side. And at one point I had it behind this branch, and it was kind of a little toss-up between, it was either slipping up on the pot or it was cutting too far into the branch. And then about a month ago it had a much bigger gap here, and so what I did is I took and I put some really you know, thicker wire right around the middle of it, tied it right on top of that scar and pulled it down. It was cutting deep into the scar. I pulled it off, the gap held. And now I just kind of noticed it separating a little bit. You can see it getting a little bulge over here on this side. It still did the trick. I mean, it could have closed up a little bit better. I mean, I'm still pretty happy with the results and everything. Had I had this in a training pot, I would have been able to put a hole just right in the side of the pot and just use the guy wire to pull it right on over. It probably would have worked out better that way. But I think what I'm going to do today, I know I'm going to prune it. Fairly certain I'm going to wire it. And then after I'm done pruning and wiring it, I'm going to go ahead and put that wire back in place here. There is a little branch coming right out of that scar there. That's the big chop scar from where I had where it was, you know, kind of growing a little bit wilder. I cut that off, and that was the initial thought, is getting some movement coming out of there and letting it grow a new apex. So it does have that movement, but I'm going to let that branch kind of grow and recover that scar. And then also that wire is going to sit right there, and so that branch growing should help that a little bit. But first I'll prune it. I'll go ahead and just get started on that. I'm going to take out some of these branches that are right at the crotches. And then I haven't wired a tree like this yet because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, clip and glow is the way to go on some of these. The branches are kind of brittle, but they're still they're flexible enough to wire. I do think that it's a fast growing variety to where I'm not going to be able to leave it on there long, but I would like to get some of these branches down quite a bit. I mean, and I think I can kind of get it to fill out a little bit more. And once I do start pulling some of them down, like this one, I've kind of actually been thinking it's got the main part of the branch kind of goes up here, but I could introduce a little bit more taper into it by cutting off the part that's going up, and then when I wire that part down, it'll just have a little more taper and already be kind of directionally down. I may not even wire it. I may just do some mainly directional pruning, but I'm just going to see what it looks like after I prune it. And I'm going to start off by getting some of these down here in the crotches. Leave that one. And some of these trees really are interesting. I get sometimes a little, it's actually dropping an aerial root right below my finger right there. I don't really know if you guys will be able to see that or not. Kind of in a spot that, I mean, I won't take it off on purpose, but I can't imagine it really living long enough to ever really reach the ground. It'll just kind of hang there for a bit. Winter time's coming. We're getting ready to have some dry season coming up. And that's when it kind of starts putting out, or stops putting out some of those roots. And some of them will get all dried up. As I prune, with the exception of this branch here, I'm going to try to hit every growing tip. Not to cut much off, like inches, but just to you know, do some back budding, and just to keep especially the crown kind of tamed down a little bit. Let's see how this looks on video here, but this is kind of what I was thinking of here. This is the main branch, you know, not main branch, not the trunk, but the main branch here. I could either wire it down and then just kind of leave this one alone, probably go ahead and cut off where that would look like it's coming straight up, or I could cut the branch off where it's going up and just use directional pruning and leave that one. Or maybe even do a little combination of both, trying to make up my mind as I go up here. I only really have 1 branch, 2 branches, 3 branches, and then basically the crown, although I probably am going to go ahead and prune those two, the next 2, so I guess there's kind of technically 5 branches there. And of course, I guess in art, odd things are good, like when you make a forest of trees, you're supposed to use an odd number. And I guess this apex is small enough where I could probably get a little more movement out of it. And I'm probably going to wind up cutting half of it off. It's got a fork right now. The last time I did cut it, I think with the exception of my rain trees, I think this might be the fastest growing trees I've got in my collection. I've got 2 more much smaller ones than this one. I'm going to kind of do this as a little experiment with the wire, and I should be able to kind of tell within a week or so if it looks like it's working out really well. I'll probably go ahead and wire those 2 up too. The one I was just looking at, I was thinking about doing that one just for a little video instead of this one, but since this one's bigger, and I would like to go ahead and try to get some wire back up on top of there. What I did was, I actually have to go back outside and get it. I did some work outside. I left my pliers out there, but what I did was actually had that thicker wire right there, and then actually took and kind of did where you kind of twist the wire as you pull on it to kind of pull it on in there, because it's healed in place, but it's just kind of separates by just a few millimeters, but it's enough to kind of see the air in there. I would like to try to close it up as much as possible, just so that it's not a big lopsided spot there where it's healing. But anyway, I'm going to get these bent. I imagine as I bend them, I'm going to see some more branching kind of sticking straight up. Some of these when they kind of come out to the end, they get really small to where it almost is like you're wrapping the branch around the wire instead of wrapping the wire around the branch. But just to kind of get it down a little bit, get a little extra movement in it, kind of separate them out a little bit. Probably won't look the greatest right when I'm done today, but if it works out in the long run, it'll look really nice in a couple months. So if it does look really nice in a couple months, what I might try to do is this thing pretty much grew all last winter, and that was one of the ideas I was going to do with the root over rock. Is I thought I was going to have to leave it in there for a few years, and it grew so much over the winter I didn't really have to, but then it grew so much so quickly, and those roots just got so big it just looks so silly sitting on top of that rock like that. I took it off. And let's see what we got going on here. Here's a really long whip. Being almost up in the crown like that, without a doubt it'll grow back. Because this one had like 3 branches to choose from the wire, this one I'll keep, and this one I'll just take off just because it kind of looked like it's going to try to become part of the crown if I leave it on there. This right here with me, I had wire on this branch, so this one's just kind of hanging out. So yeah, I may go ahead and put some extra wire on there. Yeah, it really is too bad I don't have it in a training pot. That'd be a perfect spot for a little guy wire there, because I don't know if I really want to double up the wire on it. But anyway, I might get some of these coming straight down here just because it's kind of coming down and coming together with that lower branch. I'd like to leave a little bit of air in there. This one might have been a good spot for a guy wire too, but it looks a little bit better than that other one does. I'll leave that one. That one would kind of just took that other one off there. It had a little bit of damage to it, and it was almost kind of looking like a bar branch with another branch anyway. And then this one is now kind of technically growing straight down with the wire. And so I think that's a lot better for now. I think about getting that second piece of wire on that one. Alright, so got this wire set on here. I actually found the same wire that I had on there before. I'll go ahead. I just checked out the gap down there. It seems to be about 1 centimeter. I don't know if I'll be able to close it all the way together, but I do want to get it as close as possible. Hopefully though, maybe I can just leave it alone and it'll still be on there. Let's see. Alright, not sure how much I'll have to edit out of there. I didn't realize how far I had the wire behind these feet. It was back a little bit, so it really wasn't pulling it in the right direction. Finally got it in the right place. I think I could get a little more out of it, and I think what I'm going to have to do is put some wire on the wire. I don't really want to have this thing wrapped up too much like Frankenstein here. This probably will be, now I'm going to try to make it the last time I have to have any wire on there for that spot. I think I'm going to get this spot on right here, and if I just kind of pull the wire out towards itself, should put a little more tension on there without all being just tension on the tree. And that should put a little more tension on the wire. And yeah, that'll do it right there. It is kind of cutting in the tree a little bit, but I was able to save that little branch there, so that should help with the healing. Whenever I go to take it off. Since I did mention, I was saying that I think this tree is one of the fastest growing trees I got, with the exception of the rain trees and the jacaranda. And I actually have now, I think I've got 5 flame trees, Deluxe Regias, I think is the, or Royal Poinciana or whatever. I think they kind of have the 3 names, scientific names, the Deluxe Regia, and then Royal Poinciana and Flame Tree are two of the nicknames for it. But I got like 5 seedlings of them. They're kind of rolling along pretty quick too. So this would be kind of like the 3rd fastest growing tree I got. But anyhow, this is the first time I've wired a tree like this. Some of these branches could have used some secondary wiring, but they are really flimsy. And I'll just kind of see how this goes the first time. As long as not quite as brittle as I remember whatever parent this one came from, which is why I have some doubts that it really is a Ficus Rianne or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that still is what it is. But the one tree I think that I took the cuttings from seemed to be a lot more brittle than this one is, and this one seems to be retaining some flexibility, but I really honestly don't know what else it could be other than one of those two. So I was also, as I was kind of taking that break there, so I had, it's kind of basically had 2 crowns going, just kind of pop the one off, and maybe put a little, it's kind of not necessarily more movement in that, but kind of bring it back up there to where it's going to be back in the crown again with just 1 there instead of 2.